Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session where ideas meet people, the power of knowledge markets. As my colleagues just introduced our guests, we'll jump right into it and we'll start with our session right away. And I will start with you, Faisal, if you don't mind. When you look at ideas, when you're evaluating an idea or a knowledge-based project, what signals tell you that it has potential to scale into a business?
Assalamu alaikum jami'an, and pleasure to be with you all here. Of course, we jump straight to the core of the subject, and I think when we talk about ideas, for me at least, what really matters is a number of things. One is obviously the quality of the founders, which is the human talent, the human element. What do they have in terms of capabilities, experience, perseverance, and the grit to take things to the next level. The second thing is really I look at ideas that are addressing a large total addressable market, which can have a large impact if they succeed, that they will ultimately address that market. And then I also look at sort of industries that I believe will have impact, more generally, impact on the society, impact on humanity, and things that I believe will cause good. And I think if those three sort of key filters are met, I am excited.
Okay, then, Fadi, I'll move on to you. He did mention founders. You were one of the first founders in the region before there was a startup industry in the region, I'm talking, before there was an ecosystem to look at that. When you look at this, between then and now, what has changed? And towards the future, what do you think will change in the ecosystem?
Good morning. Thank you. Good afternoon. We were supposed to start in the morning, but now we're in the afternoon. So thank you for this. Look, at the end of the day, if we want to talk about ecosystems, and so ecosystems require 3 or 4 things that are critical. They're infrastructure, we call them. So you need capital, access to finance, so capital, access to finance in all its range. You need talent, and so either working with universities to make sure that there is talent that is ready for the market to become an entrepreneur or to be participating in entrepreneurial companies. It's essential, or to attract talent from all over the world that is going to come and build the businesses in your country or in your region. You need markets, obviously, access to markets. How do you scale businesses? So you start in a small, Dubai is the ultimate story of how it tells you start in Dubai and you can go global from here because it has all sorts of connectivities to all sorts of markets, Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia. So that is essential because any business that is going to be impactful and that is going to be sustainable is going to require, as Faisal said, so what is the addressable market? So addressable market, when you ask for funding, you need to have the ability to go into and cross borders and not stick yourself in one border. There are 2 or 3 countries in the world that do not necessarily ask for you to go cross border. The US, China, and India. They're sustainable markets in their own on their own terms. But the rest of us in the rest of the world, including Europe, requires to have the ability to cross borders and access markets. And then you need to have the ease of doing business, right? The World Bank used to publish reports about the ease of doing business. It had issues with it, but in any way, any country that wants to have an ecosystem requires to have a regulatory environment that is not only easy for a company to start and build from it, but it requires an open mind from the bureaucrats and from the government officials that are willing to listen, because we're living in a world of future technologies, and you need to have that dialogue with regulators so that you're able to regulate for these future businesses that they have not been invented yet. And cost of doing business, finally. So the cost of doing business is so essential for early stage startups in an ecosystem, because you don't want to be too expensive to do business in the city or in the country that you are in, so that you can focus on building your business rather than paying the costs and taxations and etc. and licensing processes. I mean,
Is it
that's
getting
it's as
easier?
simple as that.
Yeah.
And during my days, so if you're 25 years ago when the internet started, the ecosystem was lacking. There was no capital. Talent was always available, but a lot of our talent in the region, and you heard Dr. Daddari probably speak about it earlier, we had a brain drain. Brain drain. Dubai today is the ultimate brain regain. Because once you have a thriving ecosystem, even your own global talent comes here, and our own Arab talent says, okay, well, I have an opportunity. I want to come back to this city. So there is, you can't compare what was happening when the internet started in 1998, 99, and the AI age. I think we are ready for the AI age because the ecosystem in this region specifically has addressed all the issues that I've spoken about in one way or another. We feel it, we live it, and that's why you have so many startups. I mean, if you look at it today, and I'll end here, I know I have long-winded answers, you have thousands of startups in the region, thousands of startups. I would count startups 20 years ago on a single hand.
Now, Faisal did mention founders. You mentioned also policy and regulations. You mentioned capital. Let's talk about knowledge. Also, knowledge has changed, Dr. Leila. Why is it important? Why do knowledge markets matter in today's economy? What difference does it make?
So if you look at knowledge and innovation, it's very clear today that knowledge and innovation is what's driving productivity jumps, it's what's driving growth, and it's what's driving national competitiveness. It's also what's going to allow us to solve our biggest, most complex global problems, whether it's climate change, public health, etc. So today, knowledge markets are actually the world's most valuable assets. And when you look at the S&P 500, when you look at markets everywhere, you see that the investments in knowledge markets, in the knowledge economies and the sectors is growing much faster than investments in tangible and physical assets. If you look at R&D spend and spend on innovation from government, from industry, you see that it has tripled between the year 2000 and the year 2000 and today. And you see that it used to be innovation, R&D used to be in the realm of the Western hub. Now you see everywhere in the world really realizing the importance of innovation, the importance of investing in R&D for national competitiveness, to be ready for the future economy. And so you see middle-income economies really investing significantly to play in the same game. Here in the GCC and in the UAE, there's tens of billions of dollars of investments that are taking place in innovation, in R&D, and the expectation in 2030 number to go to 100 billion. The UAE has, and my mic has gone, I think. The UAE has managed to already go a long way. 75% of the GDP, or not real GDP. We're very well en route towards a strong knowledge economy.
Looking at going towards this strong economy, Faisal, a lot of founders struggle to bridge the gap between a beautiful, smart idea and actually commercializing it and turning it into a business, attracting those investors, attracting this money. How do you decide this is an idea that is worth investing in?
I think different investors have different strategies, and I think it's important for the founders to know who are their audience in terms of investors and actually go and present to them their ideas at the stage where their ideas suit these type of investors. I believe today the ecosystem in the UAE and in Dubai has been evolving very rapidly, and today there is a meaningful amount of investors, both local, indigenous, family offices, angel investors, and venture capital funds, but also international funds that are starting to eye opportunities in the region. As Fadi mentioned today, because of the fact that we have become a brain regain, and I like this phrase, we're seeing a lot of this talent coming back to this country because they see this as a platform where they can access multiple markets. A lot of the founders, if you really ask them today and you tell them, what is more important for you? Raising capital in your company or securing contracts? I can guarantee you that they'll tell you securing contracts. Because when you have contracts, when you have business, you can raise capital, and it's not vice versa.
I like that. Let's focus on that a little bit. When you say secure contacts, how do you know doors won't be shut in your face?
How do I know what?
Doors will not be shut in your face.
As a founder, you mean?
As a founder, yes. If you want to start a business, you want to secure investors eventually.
I mean, as a founder, doors will be shut in your face. And you have to be used to doors being shut in your face. And you have to find ways how to go from the window or from the chimney or from any other way that you can access that door. Because that is the resilience that is needed for founders to be able to succeed. So they have to get used to it. But ultimately, customers, they want solutions. They want services that help them increase their efficiency, their productivity, or basically offer a better quality service. The founder's responsibility is to be able to spend enough time and create enough innovation to be able to achieve that for the customer. The good thing about our region is that we do actually have a relatively good innovation adoption mindset. So we do have customers here are willing, are open to explore new ideas and new things. But still, the founder of the company has to be able to create something that is competitive.
Okay,
let me add just one thing to Faisal, and that's core to startups in general. And so you need to think of startups as people sitting in laboratories. So there's something called product market fit. So there's a trial and error continuously. So when you say the door is shut, it's like you are trying in a laboratory a certain experiment that does not work, and you need to change the elements in it to work. So there is a pivoting process. So product market fit. If the door is shut, then you need to see why what was shut, so that you can continue to evolve your product or your service so that it fits the door, so that it becomes a key to open the door. And so it's at the core of what entrepreneurs do. Our early stage life is a continuous process of trying and pivoting.
From being a startup to actually investing in startups, relevant to what you're saying. So what would be the biggest barrier? Regulation, talent, funding, or not pivoting, as you say? Or maybe pivoting?
If you had asked me 20 years ago, I'd tell you regulation is hell, excuse the language. But I think in today's world, there is an understanding among regulators and governments that if they do not regulate, people are going to start their businesses, and then you're going to run after them to regulate. Because if you want to build the future economies, the digital economies, the artificial intelligence economies, you'd better be in the business of being as fast as the startups are. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else. And you're not going to have the future economy, and the talent is not going to come to your town. And you're going to be basically having conferences like this and standing up there and complaining. Where is the talent? What happened to Arab talent? Well, if you want Arab talent to be here, you need to understand why it comes to a country, why it comes to build, or any talent for that matter. And Dubai is the ultimate multinational talent that it attracts here. And so, in my view, in today's world, the stickiness of talent is the most important thing, which means there is such an incredible competition, specifically for artificial intelligence talent. You need to be super incredible as a country, as a city, as a startup, to keep the talent sitting with you. It is, because otherwise talent is the ultimate mobility, right? Because talent is in the brain. And so you can pack your bags and go on a plane and travel anywhere you want, and that's where it happens. So in my view, the talent and stickiness of talent is how do you attract them, how do you keep them, how do you sustain them, how do you pay them so well that they don't want to go anywhere else.
Give them a golden visa. They will stay, no?
Even beyond. I mean, give them a company that uses their talent. Because if you're going to have a talent that does not get their talent to be utilized properly, they will go somewhere else, because talent loves to develop. It doesn't want to stick around, and especially in AI. You know, technology is moving so fast in AI, and talent needs to learn with it. And so it needs to be able to test its products and its capabilities all the time.
Dr. Leila, How do we make talent stick? There's a lot of investment in education and in human capital. Where are we seeing the most impact? And are there any gaps that need to be filled in order to move this forward and make it, again, make talent stick one way or another?
So Fadi talked a lot about talent mobility and the importance. Oh. We're not hearing. You can hear me now. So Fadi talked a lot about the talent mobility and attracting and keeping talent and what you need to do to achieve that. And I think the UAE certainly has gone a long way in doing that and needs to continue. But the important thing, the gaps to be filled are also in the education system. How do we make sure that we're also building that talent from the get-go? And of course, university is very important, but we need to start in early childhood. We need to start where it all starts to make sure that we have future talent that is ready for the future economy. And when you think about that, there's the what we need to teach in early childhood in K to 12, and there's also the how we need to teach it. The what we need to teach is today, it's all about the skills, and it's about, of course, being ready for the age of AI. So we're now seeing countries around, including the UAE, incorporating AI into their curriculum. There is strength of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics that needs to be there. But there's also entrepreneurship, grit. How do you put that?
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, and there's also critical thinking and thinking about the moral aspect, because ethics and how do we manage AI and ethics is going to be extremely important. So all of that in terms of skills needs to be a core to our education system. And then the how of our education system is transforming super fast. We see that we need to embrace technology even faster, that the role of the teacher, so as we see our children, education becoming very personalized and every child getting the education in a personalized way based on their own learning approach, their own learning difficulty, the role of the teacher becomes incredibly important as a coach to fill the exact customized needs of that child. So how do we modernize also teachers? How do we make sure that teachers are always at the edge of their profession, if you will? We also need to think about inclusive policies in education. Digital divide is a very real thing. How do we make sure that between the rich and the poor, between the urban and rural, people do not fall behind, and everybody, when we talked before about people having access to the internet, it's about people having access to Gen AI, to AI education, etc. So how do we make sure that digital divide, that we have the right policies in place for inclusion, for that digital divide to be bridged, These are just some of the key things in terms of filling in the gaps. Of course, then we talk about higher education and the role of universities, and we need universities in the region I mean, there's been a huge investments in universities. There needs to be even more in R&D, for example, because early research happens at core in universities. How do we make sure that we get the right funding and the right triple helix in place, the collaboration between industry, university, and academia, and industry and government, and of course. Universities are becoming launch pads for startups, for entrepreneurship. So how do we put the right accelerator programs in place? We've done a lot in the UAE, in Saudi. You're seeing a huge progress in terms of these entrepreneurship programs, these accelerator programs. How do we continue investing there to fill in the gaps?
So I wanted to go in a different direction, but Faisal, relevant to what Dr. Laila is saying, you were talking, when we were in the green room, you were talking about the importance of grants, the importance of R&D at universities, the importance of having scholars here in the UAE. The more we have better quality education, the more it will affect the market. Let's talk about that a little bit. Why is it so important to have that, and how will that feed into this environment that we are looking at?
Yes, I mean, it is a fact today that any advanced nation, when it comes to innovation, it all starts from the university. So if you want to look at the US, you want to look at Europe, you want to look at the UK, it starts from the universities. So strong universities with a strong research component, with a funding system through grants and endowments that enables those innovations to get to a stage where they could be commercialized is critical for a sustainable flywheel effect that would really create a proper knowledge economy. What we're doing today in the UAE is great because we are attracting a lot of the international talent to come here through ease of doing business, through visas, through a great place to work, and give them access to capital. That is part of the solution. But to really address it from the root cause, we need to address the universities. I think today, within our universities' initiatives, and within the overall ecosystem, we have a lot of fragmented efforts.
Okay.
What we're lacking today is a coordinated and cooperative initiative where we really
coordinated with the government or amongst the educational system?
Amongst the government agencies, there's a lot of, the vision of our leadership is very clear. Then that is then being implemented by a number of governmental organizations that are doing their own programs. There is a lack of coordination and cooperation, in my experience, amongst those organizations. We can have a much bigger outcome if that is done in the right way. Also, we link this based on proven models in other parts of the world. Today, it is common that any nation where tax-paying organizations can offset part of their tax by committing to research and innovation. We are not reinventing the wheel here. We just need to adopt some of those models and integrate those within our taxation system, the corporate tax, and allow for part of that money to really go and fund innovation. If we get this done in a coordinated and cooperative fashion with the government, then the private sector would play a very active role in supporting the next wave of growth. Because the big risk, and where really the governments need to play a role, is the very, very early stage of supporting those ideas. The commercial capital, venture capital, and all other early stage commercial capital is looking for, obviously winners. And they will come and they will commit capital when the initial work has been done, but they will not actually go as early as the universities need to be and as early as the government need to act.
So we're talking about, yes, go ahead, Doctor.
One more thing about the important role of universities, but also about the gaps in education. Education today has to, skills are becoming obsolete very, very quickly. As job descriptions change and what you need from jobs change because AI is taking over, the skills that are relevant to industries are changing ever so fast. So how do we make sure that we instill a culture of lifelong learning? How do we make sure that we are always, we have the right ecosystem to incentivize employers and the learner, the employee, to constantly upskill themselves so they are always having the latest skills that are needed in terms of dealing with AI, managing AI, etc. One example, we were working with an organization that wanted to transform its sales force and wanted to use agentic AI within its sales force. So, there was an agentic AI and it replaced a lot of what the average salesman was doing, but the best of salesmen were actually still doing better the agentic AI. So then we looked into what is it? Okay. What is it, as part of the value chain, what is it that the human is doing better still than the AI? And we found one component which was trust. The customer was trusting still the human more. Now, this could evolve in the personal experience was trusting the human more. Now, of course, this is still shifting, and AI keeps taking over. But how do we continue to be ahead of the game by always figuring out where the human is adding the most value in the chain and making sure that the skills are being taught so that we're always ahead of the game and we're ready for the future.
Fadi, a lot of investment is going into AI, advanced tech, R&D hub in the infrastructure. As to what Dr. Leila mentioned, how do we make sure that this talent is preserved? How do we translate all this infrastructure into real innovation and it does not stay just, wow, we have the biggest infrastructure for AI, that we have the biggest data hubs in the region. How can we translate it?
Well, that infrastructure is essential. You cannot have today in the AI world a serious, especially infrastructure that's being spent. Let me start over. Infrastructure being spent in the GCC, specifically in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, for the AI ecosystem is critical for the transformation of the economies here. Critical. Because without that infrastructure, you're not going to be able to attract all these startups that are going to sit on that infrastructure. So compute power, data centers, are essential for bringing in these AI companies because they require compute power, and compute power requires energy, and the UAE and Saudi Arabia and the GCC in general has energy, right? Has energy. You're not going to import it. So there is already an advantage. And now with the political power of the region, I mean, the region is using its wealth to become politically capable of making sure that they're going to get at the microchips that they need. I mean, the NVIDIA negotiations is strategic here. It's strategic. Not many countries have access to NVIDIA chips. It's a political statement also. And that's part of the maturity and the capability of the countries in the region to understand what it requires to go forward. So that infrastructure, you start with that infrastructure. It's like, like having electricity, like having access to water in the old days, or like having access to the internet, fast internet. Today, that infrastructure gives the ability for these countries to attract talent, to retain talent, because they actually have that infrastructure. It's essential. And that's where we go back to the public-private partnerships. This is where, and this infrastructure can only be built by the public sector. There is no private sector in the region that has the economic power.
Capability.
They can't. And so a government understands it, and they're investing in it, and everybody is going to be in deep usage of it. So when you have OpenAI say, I want to do a strategic alliance with the UAE, with Abu Dhabi, to come and actually utilize that capability, then it says we're attracting global companies. And then when the UAE is also building data centers in Africa to be AI ready, it means you're also taking that capability, that knowledge that you've built here locally, and taking it to globally into markets that are not necessary, don't have that access to it. So there is a strategic element to that.
Just before we continue, I just want to know how much time do we have still? We have about 5 minutes or more, so that we'll move on. Dr. Leila, I'll ask you about when companies say, or people in companies say they want to innovate, but then there is an internal culture that blocks that. How can organizations build the culture to actually activate and accommodate that?
So organizations need to fundamentally change the way that they think about innovation to ensure that the culture of the organization embraces innovation. That has to come from the top. It has to be a leadership-driven culture that encourages experimentation, encourages a fail fast, learn fast approach. You need to actually drive that through the performance management. You reward people who are taking risks, who are taking smart risks. You reward people who are collaborating. So you need to ensure that you're breaking the silos of your organization, that you have cross-functional, cross-disciplinary teams working together. You need to ensure continuous development, continuous learning programs so that people are always upskilling themselves. Fadi mentioned the importance of collaboration, private-public collaboration. So how do you also encourage the constant collaboration with universities, with the government as industry to ensure that you're working on the problems that will solve the biggest issues with citizens, because those are the ones that will matter the most and that will be the most successful. There's also the importance of knowledge sharing. We all know that data is the new oil. So how do we make sure?
Knowledge sharing with intellectual property, how do you balance?
So exactly. So how do you? So how do you make sure within organization, first is within an organization, how do you make sure that, if I look at BCG and the future of consulting, our key strength and our key assets is in the knowledge that is in our brain, but also in the knowledge that we have sanitized on our systems. So first of all, internally as organizations, how do you make sure that you encourage people to share their knowledge, that you have the right process flows to achieve that. Then when it comes about this balance that you mentioned, Maya, which is super, super important, how do you balance IP protection, which is so important for small startups to be protected, with open innovation that is leading to competitiveness? You have countries like China, Brazil, Malaysia, South Africa that have adopted a model that is very similar to the US in terms of allowing universities, non-for-profit organizations, and small businesses to patent research that comes out of publicly funded research. So you need to encourage this open innovation. You see organizations like Tesla, like Toyota that are giving patents royalty-free. You see the big giants, tech giants, that are actually having patent pools or cross-licensing so that they can each leverage the synergies between the different technologies. So in this region, we see today every country, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, setting up their own IP authority. The key success for them is how do you make sure that you have the right IP that is stable enough for investors, agile enough to advance with the different technologies that need to change, but and balances really well this protection of the startup but with the openness that is so important for competitiveness.
Faisal, how do you balance protecting intellectual property with getting founders to share ideas and to share enough of their ideas to be able to attract investors?
Yeah, I think there are proven blueprints and models in well-established universities in the West that we can really learn from and we can import into our markets. I think these blueprints have sort of clear pathways, clear protocols as to sort of how to protect intellectual property, how to go ahead and register that intellectual property, but also how to create sufficient open systems and sharing systems that allow for collaborative measures. Again, I think we've been beneficiaries of seeing what the West has done.
Okay.
But then, and being able to pick and choose what really works for us. And we need to continue to do that and then continue to build and innovate from that point onwards. But I think there's very well-tested models. I mean, I'm personally privy to platforms such as companies like Parkwalk in the UK and others that work closely with universities using this methodology to help, sort of the inventors get protected, but at the same time create the right level of sharing.
So, Fadi, in that sense, we have, say, 3 apps or 3 companies, company X, company Y, and company Z. X started, then Y copied, and then Z did it better. In that case, how do we look at this when it comes to sharing knowledge and protecting the IP?
So I'll be a bit radical here. I really don't care if anybody has protected IP.
Okay.
I want to know what you're doing with the IP, how are you taking it to market, and how are you executing. If you have a patent registered, not patent registered, for me, it's meaningless. Meaningless, completely. I want to know, can you take that knowledge that you have and go to market with it and actually create a solution with it? That's what differentiates you. Because I can tell you from now, there are so many patents sitting on shelves in the world doing nothing. Nothing. They're just research, not important eventually. But also, we need to also remember that advancement in the world is cumulative. Everybody sits on somebody else's shoulders in innovation. Everything. I will challenge anybody that can tell me that any scientist or Nobel Prize winner that does not tell you, I started my research where somebody else ended. And so I took it, I added to it, I advanced to it. I had a colleague that worked with me on it. And so open source, sitting on and understanding that there is a cumulative for the betterment. For you as a company, it's important that you share. And for the betterment of humanity, we need to be very careful about how do we do our IP protection so that we have innovation and not protection. Innovation and not protection.
So when we say innovation and not protection, let's build on that moving forward. When we are talking about innovation, what is needed in today's market? What is needed in the next few years in order to keep this going, to keep the cycle going and moving forward, Dr. Layla?
So in terms of what we see in terms for innovation in the region, I think there'll be a few trends that we're going to see. We're already starting seeing them. There's the sovereign AI and sovereign tech. It's going to be incredibly important, whether it is for privacy reasons, for geopolitical risk. Every country here needs to become sovereign, and so there's a lot of investments that are taking place in AI models and AI infrastructure. Huge transformation investments in AI and digital, and you see partnerships with the tech giants, whether it's G42 in Abu Dhabi, Saudi on the cloud deal, or in Saudi with Alphabet on the AI hub, you see a huge investment, and there needs to be even more on the AI talent. And so coming from an education background, I will tell you, or education focus, I'll tell you that's going to be the core to winning this race. So AI talent, workforce transformation, and continuous upskilling to constantly be ahead of AI and have meaningful jobs. The diversifications in terms of tech and renewable energy. So you see the ADNOCs and the Aramcos of the world really doubling down on renewable energy and on tech. And you see a big focus also on regulation and on cybersecurity frameworks to ensure that there's enhanced data privacy, cybersecurity resilience, and ethical AI usage, which is going to be...
You keep going back to ethical. You've said it a few times. I think we need to wrap up. So I'll need just one sentence, not even, maybe less, one sentence. In the next 5 to 10 years, what is the biggest change you will see in this market? I will start with you, Fadi, and then Faisal, and then Dr. Layla.
Well, I mean, it's a cliche, right? So the AI is here. It's moving very fast. And those that adopt it and learn how to work with it, there's the ethics of it, obviously, are going to be the winners. And those that are scared of it are going to be left behind and way behind because it moves so fast. And if you don't move as fast as it does, this is more than
obsolete,
one sentence.
Yeah?
More than one sentence, but yes. AI and moving fast.
Yeah, I will deviate from your question.
Okay.
And what I want to say is the main message is that I think our leadership has set a very clear path to embrace change and to be in advancement of innovation. What we need to do is collaborate and communicate and ensure that that is really achieved at the level of the organizations. If this is done, I think we'll achieve a lot.
And I'll just build on that. In addition to that, embrace, each one of us, a learner mindset. Keep yourself ahead of the game. Keep yourself educated and on AI, on the new technologies that are coming beyond AI as well, to stay ahead of the game.
Thank you so much, Dr. Layla, Faisal, Fadi, and dear audience. Thank you for being with us today and for attending our session. Thanks.